We live in an age when more and more people are turning to various forms of satanic religions and even utter atheism. That does not mean those people want to live evil and ungodly and in dreadful sin, but rather the biggest reason people today are turning against God more and more is because they see so much hypocrisy in people who claim to be children of God. They look around and notice that most people who attend all different kinds of churches seem to commit the same sins they do and live the same kind of lives they do. People feel there is no hope from churches or from religions, and so it's no wonder that they feel that way when there are so many multitudes of people who claim to be Christians and claim to be on their way to heaven, and yet no one can really see the difference in their lives. No one can really see Christ manifest in them. No one can really see the work of God being manifest in their lives. Jesus spoke of this very condition in Matthew chapter 7, and I'd like to start reading at verse 21. Jesus said, "Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Therefore whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock." Jesus is showing us that unless we have the solid rock of He Himself as truth manifest to us and through our lives, that anything that we build as far as a spiritual house will be worthless. Because when the rains come and the floods come and the winds blow and beat upon our house, if it's not built upon the rock of Jesus Christ, it's going to fall down flat. The whole world seems to have some kind of religious profession. Even atheism, even agnosticism, those are forms also of religion. People just don't realize it. Religion is simply a belief, something that people choose to believe in and to live by. And of course, the whole world declares, well, don't judge. And I, for one, don't want to have to do any judging of anyone. But the fact is, Jesus' words are very plain, and it does not take a brilliant mind to understand them. It does take dedication to Him in order to obey them in our lives. But if our hearts desire to serve Christ and serve God, then we will be empowered to do so and to be able to gain victory over the world in our lives. Let's read again just the verses in Luke 8 where Jesus spoke of the seed that fell among thorns. Once again, Luke 8 and verse 7. "And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it." Verse 14, Luke 8:14. "And that which fell among thorns are they which, when they have heard, go forth and are choked with cares and riches and pleasures of this life, and bring no fruit to perfection." Some people interpret this thought to mean that people who are thorny ground are still saved, but are just useless Christians who don't amount to anything for God. Before we allow ourselves to be deceived by such a conclusion, we need to be reminded of what Jesus had to say about bearing fruit in our lives as His people. Let's look for a bit at John chapter 15. In John 15:1, Jesus said, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, He taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, He purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit." When Jesus spoke in Luke 8:14 about thorny ground bringing no fruit to perfection, we need to determine what He meant by that statement because it's extremely important. Did He mean, for example, that people who produce any amount of fruit whatsoever, even if it's not ripe, even if it's not edible, but if it's just started to form at all, does He mean they're okay? They're still Christians, they're just bad Christians? Does he mean that? Or does he mean that if they don't bring the fruit to perfection, that it's going to negate their experience with him? Now, he answers that in John 15. As we started reading, I'd like to look back again at those two verses that we've looked at so far. In John 15:1, Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. So God is the husbandman, or the caretaker, or the owner, you might say, of the vineyard. Jesus is the vine growing in the vineyard. The only way that we can be a part of God's vineyard is by bringing branches that grow forth out of Jesus Christ. In other words, our lives become connected with him, and by our connection with Jesus as the true vine, we become branches for the purpose of bearing fruit in behalf of God the Father, who is the husbandman or the owner of the vineyard. Jesus said in John 15:2, every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. So what he is saying is that if a branch does not bear fruit, God is going to remove the branch. He's not going to have branches in his vineyard that are not fruit-bearing. And he continued on in John 15:2 and stated, every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So not only will he take away and remove any branch that does not bear fruit at all, but he prunes the branches that produce fruit so that those branches will produce even more fruit. John 15:2, again, he said, every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. If we don't bear fruit, then God removes us. He cuts us away from the vine and casts us away, and we will be lost. If we bear fruit, then God will purge us or prune us so that we might produce more fruit. This is a serious matter. Remember, Jesus said most people would not understand this parable, and the time we live in today is precisely the same as it was in Jesus' day, only maybe worse. People do not understand Jesus' words today because they do not really want to understand. They want to hide behind excuses and hope that somehow they're going to make it to heaven no matter how much they fail to do what Jesus taught. Let's face facts, friend. Jesus showed us a picture of ground that was just as good ground. Other than thorns were allowed to spring up. Thorns sprang up and choked out the fruit. And those thorns that sprang up were in three categories. Jesus gave us three categories all total. The cares of life, the riches of life, and the pleasures of life. Those things, as Jesus said, sprang up in the people's lives who could have ended up as good ground. They were not hard wayside ground. Their lives were not full of stones. Their one problem was they allowed those three types of thorns to spring up in their life, and they did not keep them chopped down, nor allow anyone else to help them do so. As a result, they could bring no fruit to perfection. Therefore, we can see again from Jesus' words in John 15, the rest of the picture. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. So when the thorns in the parable of the sower choke out and prevent the fruit from coming to perfection, it's the very same condition that is being portrayed as what Jesus is speaking of here in John 15. Jesus continued in verse 5 and said, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. Now notice what Jesus says in verse 6 that happens to people when they do not bring forth fruit to perfection. John 15:6, Jesus said, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. So what does God think of people who do not bring fruit to perfection? He rejects them. He cuts them off from the vine, which means he cuts them off from Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. Jesus Christ is the only means that we have of access to God. So if God cuts us off, where we are no longer a branch growing out of Jesus Christ, then there is no hope for us for eternity. It's extremely urgent that we help people to understand that simply looking around at so-called church people and assuming that if we are at least better than them, that we will be okay, is the biggest lie the devil has ever managed to get people to believe. We will not be judged by what other people do. The Bible makes it very clear that we will be judged by every word God has spoken that he holds us as humans accountable for. That's a lot of words, and most religious people today are not concerned enough about God's opinion of their life to spend the time needful to learn God's will, which causes them to instead look around and judge their own life against the multitudes that Jesus said, "Go the broad way that leadeth to destruction." Please watch for more editions of The Sower and other Bible studies as well, coming soon to our channels and websites.